The little boy was burning with fever when the woman opened the motel room door, and the man standing in the hallway looked like he hadn't slept in days. His dark hoodie was damp from rain, his sneakers worn at the edges, and there was a tiny child curled against his chest beneath an oversized blanket. The boy's small face was flushed red with sickness, one weak hand clutching the collar of his father's sweatshirt. For 3 long seconds, nobody spoke. Then the man asked quietly, almost ashamed, "Are you Olivia?" She nodded carefully. He looked relieved and humiliated at the same time. "I know this sounds terrible," he said, voice rough with exhaustion, "but I just need a place for my son to rest tonight. Every hotel nearby is full because of the storm. I'll pay whatever you asked." Olivia stared at him confused. An hour earlier, she'd posted online, offering the spare room in her small roadside motel suite for quick cash. Rent was overdue. Her diner paycheck barely covered groceries anymore. She never expected someone like this to answer, especially not a father carrying a sick child through the rain. The little boy whimpered softly. That sound alone made her decision. "Come inside," she said immediately. The man hesitated. "You sure?" "Your son needs a bed more than I need to be suspicious." Something flickered in his eyes then. Gratitude. The kind that comes from someone who hasn't received kindness in a very long time. He stepped into the room carefully, like he was afraid of taking up too much space. The motel room was tiny. 1 queen bed, an old couch, a flickering lamp near the window, and the smell of coffee lingering from Olivia's late shift at the diner. Embarrassment crept into her cheeks. "Sorry, it's not much." "It's perfect," he said instantly. And strangely enough, he meant it. The little boy began coughing harder. Olivia moved fast. "Bathroom's on the left." "I'll get cold water." The father laid the child gently onto the bed with a tenderness that hit Olivia. Somewhere deep in the chest, he brushed sweaty curls from the boy's forehead. "Hey, buddy," he whispered. "Stay with me." The child opened sleepy blue eyes. "Daddy, I'm here." Olivia returned with a damp cloth and fever medicine from her purse. The man looked stunned. "You carry medicine around?" "I work double shifts at a diner. Half my customers have kids." He almost smiled. "Thank you," he said quietly. "No problem." But it didn't feel like no problem. It felt personal somehow. As the storm rattled the motel windows, Olivia learned the little boy's name was Mason. And his father? Daniel. No last name, no explanations. Just a tired single dad trying to survive one impossible night. Hours passed slowly. Mason finally fell asleep after. Olivia convinced him to sip apple juice and take medicine. Daniel sat beside the bed the entire time, watching his son like the world might stop turning if he looked away for even 1 second. "You love him a lot," Olivia said softly. Daniel let out a tired laugh. "He's all I've got." There was something painfully honest in the way he said it. Olivia leaned against the old dresser. "His mom?" Daniel went silent for a moment. "She left when he was 2. "I'm sorry." "So was I," he admitted. "For a long time." The honesty surprised her. Most men she knew tried to act untouchable, strong, loud. Daniel looked exhausted enough to tell the truth. Rain hammered harder outside. "You hungry?" Olivia asked. "I can't ask you for more." "You didn't." 20 minutes later, she handed him a paper plate stacked with grilled cheese sandwiches she'd made on the motel hot plate. Daniel stared at it like she'd served him a 5-star meal. "You made this?" "You sound shocked." "I haven't had a homemade meal in months." Something about that answer hurt her heart. She sat across from him while he ate slowly, careful not to wake Mason. "You travel for work?" she asked. "All the time." "What kind of work?" Daniel paused just a second too long. "Consulting." It sounded rehearsed, but Olivia didn't push. People carried secrets for reasons. By midnight, the storm had flooded several roads outside town. Daniel checked his phone repeatedly, frustration growing in his face. "No signal?" Olivia asked. "Too many messages." "From work?" "You could say that." His phone buzzed again. This time, Olivia caught a glimpse of the screen before he turned it over. 27 missed calls. Her eyebrows lifted. "That's some consulting job." For the first time that night, Daniel actually smiled. And wow, it changed his whole face. "You ask a lot of questions." "I work at a diner," she said. It's basically professional people watching. He laughed softly under his breath. The sound surprised both of them, because it sounded like someone who hadn't laughed in years. Around 2 in the morning, Mason's fever spiked again. Everything changed after that. The little boy started shaking violently, crying weakly for his dad. Daniel panicked instantly. "Mason, hey buddy, look at me." But the child was barely responsive. Olivia grabbed her keys. Hospital now. Rain poured so hard she could barely see the road while driving. Daniel sat in the back seat holding Mason against his chest, whispering desperate reassurances. "Please stay awake." Olivia glanced at him through the mirror. The fear on his face was raw. Not billionaire fear, not powerful man fear. Just a father terrified of losing the only person he loved. At the emergency room entrance, Daniel tried carrying Mason inside, but exhaustion nearly made him collapse. Without hesitation, Olivia took the boy from his arms. "I've got him." Daniel froze for half a second, because trust didn't come easily to men who carried the world alone. But he let her help. Hours later, the doctor finally emerged. His fever broke. "He'll be okay." Daniel sat down so suddenly it looked like his legs gave out beneath him. Then he covered his face with both hands. Olivia realized quietly. He was crying. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just the silent kind that comes after holding yourself together too long. She sat beside him carefully. "You're a good dad." Daniel looked at her with red eyes. "You don't even know me." "No," she said softly. "But I know what love looks like." Something shifted between them then. Something deeper than attraction. Recognition. Two tired people carrying too much alone. Morning came slowly. When Mason woke up smiling weakly, Daniel looked like he'd been handed the world back. "Miss Olivia?" Mason whispered. "Yeah, buddy." "Daddy smiles more around you." Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. Olivia laughed despite herself. Kids always told the truth, adults tried hiding. 3 black SUVs pulled into the hospital parking lot an hour later. Olivia noticed them immediately. So did Daniel. And suddenly the calm warmth in his face disappeared. Men in expensive suits rushed through the entrance like they were searching for someone important. One woman spotted Daniel and looked seconds away from having a nervous breakdown. "Sir," she breathed. "We've been looking everywhere." Olivia blinked. "Sir?" Daniel stood slowly. The woman turned toward Olivia. "You're the one who helped him?" Her confusion deepened. "Helped who?" Then another suited man approached holding a tablet. "Markets are reacting to your disappearance. The board meeting was delayed 12 hours. Reporters are already—" Olivia stared at Daniel. "What is he talking about?" Silence. Daniel looked almost guilty. Finally, the woman answered for him. "This is Daniel Hayes." The name meant nothing for half a second. Then Olivia's stomach dropped. Hayes Global, the billion-dollar tech company constantly on the news. The mysterious CEO worth more money than most people could imagine. Her eyes widened slowly. "You're the billionaire?" Daniel looked miserable. "I was going to tell you. You slept in a roadside motel. I needed my son to feel normal for one night." The answer hit harder than she expected, because suddenly she understood everything. The exhaustion, the sadness, the way he'd guarded every detail about himself. He wasn't hiding wealth. He was hiding loneliness. The woman beside him smiled softly at Olivia. "Mr. Hayes hasn't taken an unscheduled day off in 6 years." Daniel glanced toward Mason, sleeping peacefully. "He matters more." Olivia looked at him differently now. Not because he was rich, but because despite all that money, he'd still looked completely helpless holding a sick child in the rain. Some things wealth couldn't protect you from. Daniel stepped closer carefully. "You helped my son when nobody else would." Olivia crossed her arms lightly. "You were a stranger. You treated us like family anyway." Emotion thickened his voice. And suddenly she realized this powerful man wasn't used to unconditional kindness. That might have been the saddest thing of all. A week later, Olivia returned to the diner expecting another exhausting shift. Instead, her manager ran toward her holding a newspaper. "Do you know who you helped?" Front page headline. Billionaire CEO found in small-town hospital after disappearing during storm. Below it was a photo of Daniel carrying Mason through the rain. And beside them, Olivia. Her cheeks burned instantly. That evening, a black SUV pulled into the diner parking lot. Daniel stepped out holding Mason's hand. Every waitress in the building nearly stopped breathing. But Daniel only looked at Olivia, like she was the only person there. Mason grinned the second he saw her. "Daddy kept smiling all week," he announced proudly. Daniel sighed. "Buddy?" Olivia laughed. Then Daniel held out a small paper bag. Inside was a key. She frowned. "What's this?" "The motel owner sold the property last month," Daniel explained. "I bought it." Her eyes widened. "You bought a motel?" And maybe that was the real miracle. Not a billionaire in disguise. Not wealth. Not headlines. Just two hurting people reminding each other that humanity still mattered. Mason grabbed Olivia's hand with a sleepy smile. "Does this mean you're staying for dinner?" Daniel looked nervous suddenly, which was almost unbelievable for a man powerful enough to control corporations. Olivia smiled softly. "Yeah," she said. "I think I am."